Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the CEO Chronicles. And like every week, we interview some interesting game changers in the industry. And today, I have with me Dr. Anthony, who is one hell of a person. Okay, apologies for my language, but I'm going to say he has run businesses. He's run over 7 businesses and he has had some successful businesses in the past. So that's one. Second, he has authored a game-changing book, which is actually on discipline and the power of disciplining yourself to become a better person. It is one of the best sellers, and trust me, it's one book that you should definitely read if you're planning to get better at what you do. And number 3 is that he is the partner at Evolve Consulting as well. So me, your content queen, I'm more than happy and rather privileged to welcome Dr. Anthony on the call. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Diksha. It's always great to hear you, see you, because your energy just speaks for itself, and we love spending time with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Anthony, with my little interactions with you in the past, in terms of discussing the different projects we've been talking about, I've understood that you have this deep insight about how businesses should grow, and of course, understanding that you have had many successful businesses in the past. Let's talk about one successful business of yours that you consider successful, you consider as the game changer in your career, and what made it so successful. So tell us a story. What is it about?
Well, basically, I believe that when you run a successful business, you must always use your best niche or skill to actually develop that business. And the business that I had specializes in terms of business coaching. And that is, how do you take a business, either turn it around, either make it more profitable, either take it to the next level, either help it to through a merger and acquisition. But business is business. And obviously, leaders speak to leaders. And being a leader myself, having built a highly successful business over a very short period of time, people kept asking me, what did you do? What is the key to your success? And I can tell you very straight, I use a SMART principle. And just to give you the acronym, S is for sales. If you don't know how to generate sales, your company will never fly. Agreed. And then the M, the M will be for marketing. There's a difference between sales and marketing. You need to find out how to market your business. And then I talk about A, that'll be the admin. In that part, we look at the profitability, we look at the cash flow, we look at everything in terms of how to gear the business to go forward. And then I normally look at retention. That's everything to do with human resources. Nowadays, it is smart to actually outsource your human resources so you don't have that straight up expense, but you actually bring people in for what you need them for. And my last thing is for technical. That will be systems and security. As you know, any great company runs with strong systems, and security is a part of the portfolio. So that's my SMART approach. I don't mind people knowing it, because you know what? It's after 42 years in business, how you apply your skills to actually flesh that out, that is where the essence and the secret sauce lies.
So, this is really interesting, this whole SMART principle, okay, that you're talking about, and how you're building up businesses. And one thing that at least I have noticed in my past, a lot of coaches, business coaches, business strategists don't themselves have very successful businesses, because they end up teaching so much and coaching other people because they're like solopreneurs. Say, for instance, I'm just giving an example. Imagine I'm a business coach. I have all the knowledge in my head. It's a skill that is very personal. Okay, it's with me. If I'm going and I'm teaching and so on, I cannot obviously divide my time with so many people. Okay, and then if I'm building a team, then maybe all of my employees may or may not have those expertise. So it's basically about this whole issue about how do you scale up a consulting business, a business coaching, and a business like that. How do you do it?
Well, the first thing is to start with, give the client the opportunity to decide how they want me to build it. And I can tell you my favorite part is, I tell you what, you don't have to pay me, but I will take part of the profits that we make over and above than what you made before. I can tell you one thing, they very quickly go to negotiate and said, now can we rather negotiate a package for you? Because as the sales increase and the profit increases, they pay me far, far more than what they would have wanted to pay me. So people quickly find out it's a track records. For a 10-year period, I'm used to just mentor CEOs of companies and take those companies to the next level. My last job was I was the chairman of the board for 17 companies. And it's really the strategic thrust of how do you position those companies in terms of creating an ecosystem that will supply its services to society. And yes, the way to do it, it's like coaching. A coach can stand on the side of the field and he knows exactly what each player has to do. Has he personally been there? Normally, that is the sign of the best coach, that has got the experience, that has played the positions themselves. And I think because of my road, my journey to where I've come is the various kind of businesses that I had literally took me there. But yes, of course, you don't always succeed. I started off working very hard, and I learned from Dr. John C. Maxwell, when you fail forward, take some ground. If you don't fail, you will never reach your full potential. You need to learn how to fail and how to stand up after that. It's the getting up that takes you next level.
So at what age did you start?
Well, I was in business from the age of 22. I was a branch manager at the age of 22.
All right. That is interesting. What is your first business about?
What is mine?
What is your first business about?
My thought business. Sorry.
First business.
First business. Oh, my very first business was called The Turnaround Specialist. And that is in terms of turning around the individual in order to turn around the business. I'm a great advocate for taking the person who runs the business and saying, you are the key, you are the magic. So I always maximize that individual's potential. And normally I like to work with the CEOs or the chief operating officer because they are the people that make it happen. So we maximize their potential, and then we look at analyzing the business and say, look, guess what? What strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and take it to the next level. It's a basic recipe. I mean, if you bake a cake, it's a recipe. However, if you forget the self-raising flour, your cake will not rise. And obviously, I've learned certain things that give me that tweak of the self-raising flour that makes my people successful.
Very nice. Very nice. So doctor, now we're taking a different turn in the conversation. I understand that you've done business, you've built successful businesses and all that. In your opinion, for a CEO to cultivate and have, because I understand you have been successful, you have helped other people become successful and turn around their businesses, become increasingly profitable. Okay. There is a limit that every entrepreneur reaches, or I would say a limit. It's sort of arrives at a plateau, okay, in life, where he feels that, oh, there is nothing more that I can do. This is it. This is all that I have done, and there's nothing more. I'm okay with the way it is. How do you then go out and tell such people that there's a whole bigger world out there? Because you being a coach may come across so many CEOs who are so comfortable just doing what they're doing for the last 10, 15 years or whatever. And they're like, oh, listen, you know what? This is working for me. 2 + 2 is 4. I'm okay. I have no intentions of growing to 6 or 10. How do you then tackle this situation?
Well, firstly, for me, it's always about mindset. And that is that the person of himself needs to understand that leadership starts with self-leadership. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead a team. That's where it starts. Successful leaders that grow to the next level first learn to get themselves under control through mindset. Because the mindset of, if I cannot be successful, how do I expect my people to be successful? The second thing is results through people. Because one is too small a number to achieve greatness. If you want to move to the next level, you need to find out how to embrace other people who've got the gifts and skills, and you become literally the guy who leads the symphony in the orchestra. If you do that, you will grow far beyond what you ever were. But the problem is that people hold on because they want to be in control. Well, somehow, trying to remain in control will actually keep you small. It's when you help others live out their gifts and skills, and you basically come alongside them and help them be their best. I mean, the financial manager is good in finance. The sales and marketing guy will be good at sales and at marketing. The technical guy will be good at systems. So what you do is you actually implement those jobs by putting the right people, developing them, and getting results through people. That will take you next level.
Very, very, very interesting. You talked about developing people and, having these resources around us, utilizing them and going up. Now coming to, especially for me, and I discussed this Percy last time as well, and some of the other CEOs that I have met too. Finding the right employees, or I would say rather the right partners in your business who are going to be working hard, getting their hands dirty, steering the wheel with you. These people are really hard to find. And there's this increasing my attitude, this whole thing about mindset that we do come across, where it's like, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna by investing maybe 2 or 3 years of my time, I'm gonna get experience, and I'm gonna hop into another job, I'm gonna get a 30 or 40% increment, then I keep doing the rounds, and then that's how I build successful career. Okay, now I completely agree. This has also got to do with the employee mindset. It's this whole hunting versus farming mentality where you see the greater gain after years when you're investing with it. But this is the increasing problem that we as entrepreneurs are facing in today's date. What are the best ways that you would think one can navigate this through?
Firstly, to realize that there's a generational gap in terms of every generation has got different unique skills and approaches to business. I mean, if you look at a baby boomers were the first ones that actually left the industrial age. Industrial age used to work in factories. Since all they understood, they were blue-collar workers. Then the baby boomers came and they started experiencing and experimenting and starting their own little businesses on the sideline. Then those businesses started evolving. Then you got Generation X. And so we can go through all the generations of each one of them has got a different approach. So if you want to be a CEO that makes the difference, is to understand how to utilize the different generations through who they are. Like right now, if you're looking at digitizing and going online and digital, make sure that you have got the right generation, because for them, it is next to nothing. I mean, how many of the people, baby boomers, would ask their kids to set the TV channels for them? Because they know the kids already are in the digital age where they can do that. So in terms of embracing the right people for the right application, that's how you take a business forward much, much faster.
Brilliant. So right people for the right positions sounds interesting, but easier said than done. Yeah, it's
okay. Let's be fair. How do I find out who's the right person for the right position?
Assessment. That's what I'm coming to. How do you find out?
You do assessments, because firstly, there needs to be a needs analysis in terms of what would that specific job want? What kind of person would be ideal? What kind of skills, what traits, what behavioral style would you need for that to do? I can tell you, for instance, a salesperson is a way different profile person than a person that does data and analytics and does computer work. Now, to make it easy, let's use animals. Surely we all know an eagle is made to fly. But why would you put an eagle in the 100-meter dash? He will never beat the rabbit. Never. Because he can run if he forces it. But an eagle is made to fly. So you must make sure that his application isn't flying. With the rabbit, give him the chance to run. So this is actually what you do with people. Look at who they are. In other words, look at their behavior. Look at how they are being put together and put them to work to where they are best suited. That's what I mean.
So, delving on this a little bit, every business, has, you talk about this whole SMART principle, and, every business employs people in different departments and so on. However, I am a firm believer of the fact that you need to have certain key roles okay, filled in your organization. You need to have maybe some 5 or 6 people who are each doing 5 or 6 different jobs, okay, and you need them to build your empire. These are like the pillars your business cannot grow without, okay. In your opinion, what are the roles or what kind of people does your business not grow without, like that any business absolutely needs to grow?
Well, firstly, let's start with the CEO. If the CEO doesn't have the ability to actually strategize, that means a man or a person of strategy, they will never grow, because out of strategy flows vision. Without a vision, a company go nowhere. And that's one of the biggest problems that I find, is a company was maybe an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs sort of are the ceiling to their own business. Why? They get an idea and they start running with the idea, entrepreneurial, they make money, but they cannot expand on that, because why? They lack strategy. They lack vision. They lack in terms of how to put this out to the greater level. So the first thing the CEO requires vision and the ability to live that vision out and to lead by example. The second thing is, what normally is wrong, is that a CEO must have the capacity to apply gearing. That means for every dollar that you have, you need to be able to gear that dollar to make another dollar. If you don't have that ability, you will never grow beyond. And that is where it starts now with the role of the CEO. But then the CEO, as the business grows and unfolds, what will be the first position after that? Finance. Because without sound finance, you will not have sound profitability. Without control of your business, in other words, often when people come and they want to improve their business, the people who lack understanding of how to run a business immediately start cutting expenses. Very sad. They are limited, because you can only cut your expenses so far. You should rather turn up the heat and increase your sales. Because increase your sales, you will then be able to absorb the expenses, and that will be a far better profit and loss. And obviously then, the more standard things such as asset management. What have you got in place? What assets have you acquired where the assets actually produce income for you? It's when you start turning business to have asset producing income that you change that business. So that's finance. Obviously, sales and marketing is the other position. Human resources. You need to find the right people. Now, we have found lately, outsourcing is definitely the best option. Why? The human resources partners focus and specialize in finding the right people for the right job on your behalf. They do the assessments. They do the interviews. They do the background checks. They do the security checks. And by the time you land that person, it is worth the fee to pay to acquire the right person. I'll be honest with you, I soon had to find out, work with specialists. If you work with a specialist, you get the best. Okay, so that just gives you an idea. But it goes back to the SMART principle. Each one of those is a person. So how many people do I need to really run a good business? Those 5 people every single time.
Very nice. Very nice. This is gold dust. Brilliant. I have, one question. I think from what you've mentioned, CEO is supposed to have a vision. He's supposed to have an idea. And I think a lot of the times with startups, especially, the only thing a CEO wants to do is survive. Okay, initially, all he wants to do is like, oh, let me build something, and then let me ensure it sustains. Now, the problem is this CEO will not invest in people because obviously the capital, etc., is limited. He will not invest in marketing. He will ensure that he does all the sales and so on. And so he kind of gets caught in this whole dog eat dog cycle, okay, wherein you're the one who's doing everything in the company, and you tend to feel that if you're doing everything, you're going to be saving money. You're not employing resources because you think it's going to be an added expense, and you can't manage this added expense because you don't have a great capital bandwidth. Okay, so do you think it is really important for businesses when they are starting to at least have a certain capital in place realistically that could sustain them through for a certain number of years?
I introduced what I call reverse engineering. You need to understand where you want to go. Then you need to, like Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Go to where you want to be in 5 years' time. Make sure that you have the funding in place so that you can reverse engineer where you need to start. But here's one of the key things, like you see, you're looking for gold dust. Here's one thing. It's not about sales. It's actually not about turnover. It's not about profit. It's about cash flow. Businesses today fall apart because of lack of cash flow. Why? Because they don't have the ability to gear the finance to actually make sure that they can last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's the CEO that has the ability to gear properly. It's all about gearing that gets ahead. The entrepreneur runs out of steam because it always runs into cash flow problems.
That I agree with. I'm with you that businesses go bankrupt because of cash flow. On paper, they're all profitable, but it is just that, at this point in time, when they can't manage cash, they're just out of place. What are your top tips to manage cash flow properly, especially for small businesses?
Projection, projection, projection. You need to have your foolproof projections in place and then seek counsel. Don't think that your work by yourself is basically the end to it all. You need to actually bounce it off soundboarding, and that's the role of coaching. That's why business coaches who have been there know how to lead and guide other people in terms of what would I do. I have got a business that yields 6 million per annum, but I think I have the potential to go to 10 million per annum. And then the question should be, then what needs to change to go from 6 to 10 million? Well, firstly, it's increase of what? I can tell you now it's increase in staff. But hold on, that's increase in expenses. Okay, which means that you actually need to have a cash flow program in place, setting the budgets that turns into cash flow so that you can propel and grow with the growth of a company. Companies don't double up very easily in 1 year. But if they can slowly increase and they grow in all facets of the business, that's the way to do it. Rather grow slowly, grow slow to go fast. That's very important. Planning.
Why do you say we should grow slow and grow rather than grow fast? I mean, isn't it good to just have everything there? Like, you're there. You've got a software. You're selling. You're up there.
The thing is, you become limited because you become known as a specialist up to a certain point. But the moment I now say, let's take a car salesman. There's a difference with the guy that can actually sell 1 a week versus the person that actually sets up a franchise that has 10 other salesmen selling on his behalf, and now he sells 100 a week. Who's the better businessman? The one that got results through people.
Interesting.
That's an answer of in itself.
Yeah. You mentioned planning. So you said first is projection, second is planning. So you may elaborate.
Well, failing to plan is planning to fail.
I agree.
Because, if you don't have a budget in place, you don't know how much it's going to cost. You also don't know how much you're going to staff. But then also, we have to understand the ebb and flow of business, because surely you have a far better customer retention in terms of over a lunchtime period. Far more people get out of the offices and are ready to shop. Now your service levels are checked. So service becomes intricate. Because why? You now need to up your staff level so you have sufficient staff to serve more people in terms of from a productivity point of view. Then as it lags in the afternoon, you need less people. So don't pay people to stand on the floor and do nothing. It doesn't work that way. So you literally do staff scheduling. And that is a way to be effectively of service. Because ultimately, what happens with service? If you get great service, you'll tell 2 people about it. If you get bad service, you'll tell 11. You don't want that to happen to you. Therefore, make sure that you have a service plan. And I can tell you now, it comes to, I can say, those staff members, the ability to engage the customer and make them feel they are part of a family, make them feel they love to come there. Well, surely there's a certain coffee shop. You keep on going back to the same coffee shop. Why? You feel part of the family. It becomes a culture. People want to belong. So when people find a place to belong, they keep on going back. They even might not even venture out because they're so happy with the status quo because it makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel loved. So emotions come into play because we are emotional beings, and that plays a vital role. And what gives you that feeling? Service, where you feel, now I want to remedy something. In fact, my wife taught me this. I used to say that customer is king. No, I used to say the customer is always right. Until one day she said to me, no, not true. She's also an ex-retailer, like I was an ex-retailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
The customer is not always right, but the
Mm.
customer is king. Treat them as king. In other words, give them always the best attention, do your best for them, but it doesn't mean they're always right. And when I made that distinction in my mind, I started changing and accepting. I mean, when I was in the shoe fashion industry, someone to bring a pair of shoes back to me. They've been up Kilimanjaro and back. They've worn it for 4.5 years. Yes, it's a great brand name, but they wanted a refund. Well, that doesn't make the customer right.
Yeah.
What expectation would they have had to even think they
Oh,
can get their money back?
sure.
Well, you have to have the skill to negotiate, the skill to remain in service without being rude. Because I can tell you now, I will not refund that customer because it's not fair. There has to be an exchange, a fair exchange between you as a supplier and the receiver.
Agreed. Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, I also feel that in today's date, I mean, we're told firstly we had the seller is the king, then we had the customer is the king. So there's now I think, yes, he is the king, but a customer, as a king needs ministers. He needs people to advise him and to tell him which direction to think and what is best for him. And I also feel that a lot of clients like it when they are given that education, then they are told that, okay, sir, you know what? We understand this is your perspective and you're right, but how about this alternative perspective? You know, if we do this, maybe this could work and so on. So yeah, I do think that yes, the customer is not always right. He needs to be, certain things need to be set right for him. And he also sometimes needs to be directed to think and behave in a certain manner. So, you know, you could, the two could actually come on one page and then take things on. Brilliant.
Can I mention something? Can I mention something to you? I call it the keyhole perspective. I mean, if you and I stand behind a door and we look through the keyhole, you can only see a limited section of what that keyhole allows you to see. You cannot see around the corners.
Yeah.
And that's the case with business. You need to ask yourself, what do I need to do to get the full perspective, the helicopter vision that can from the top see everything? Because as long as you're bound by keyhole perspectives, you always will be limited. Therefore, sometimes it is good to have a soundboard and say, how would you approach X or Y or Z? If you ask those people in terms of what they would do, you ask getting a better perspective. However, if you're arrogant and you are full of pride and you're not prepared to share your business practice with other people, well, remain in your small business and good luck. But people who thrive know how to embrace others and seek guidance and counsel. That's called wisdom.
Yes.
There's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, I agree. I get that. I get. This is an emotional question. Okay.
Okay.
Your career so far with whatever businesses you've worked with, have you ever come across any situation where you felt, okay, this business is beyond repair? I cannot absolutely do anything about it. Has it ever happened?
Yes, I have. And then I actually help them wind down gracefully and go and do what they are called to do, because not everybody is called to run a business. The fact that you have money doesn't mean you are fit to run a business. It may mean that you have a skill how to acquire more money, but that doesn't mean you can run a business. Running a business is a different set of skills. Is that straight enough?
That is, but so talk me through this. Tell me what are the skills that you think are required to run a successful business? And I'm asking this because a lot of us, you know, are truly passionate about what we do. And the thing is that popular culture tells us, oh, if you're passionate about it, just go, do it, just do it, Nike. And so, oh, you'll
Correct.
excel and so on, all is well. Dream, dare, do, and all that jazz. I do feel that there are creative people. This is just completely my observation. There are creative people and they are in love with what they create. They cannot necessarily be great businessmen, because when it comes to putting a cost to your creativity, selling it and asking for a price, it's different. Whereas then there are these other sort of people who are okay with, even a 70 or 80% creativity, like even if it's just there, even if it's not perfect, but they're great at selling it and getting the ball rolling and doing business. Okay. I feel
Okay.
creative
Mhm.
people are not meant for business. Okay, this is just my sad, limited perception. Okay, just what it is. And so, I mean, that's what I feel. That there are people who are wired for business, like different, and then there are people who are wired to work and handle the operations and do that a work excellent that way. In your opinion, firstly, you can correct me and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay, more than welcome, and then enlighten me on what are the skills that you think a businessman should have.
Well, firstly, I was to tell you that the answer is in the question. So I would ask the question, what outdoes passion? Think about it. You're now right in front of me. You're the CEO of your own business. And I ask you, what is greater than passion?
For me,
Now
money,
that makes you think.
survival.
Money. Now I'll give you something else. Teachability.
Hmm.
Because teachability will surpass passion any day. So again, ask the question, what are your gifts? What are your skills? What are your abilities? What are your strengths? What are your talents? What is your passion? What is your behavioral type? Because the way you behave in any situation will determine whether people will want to work with you or not. Because you see, people only follow you as long as the money follows. But
Yes.
you see, you can't always, your charisma can't take you if your character can't keep you there. You need character. And people will follow great leaders because they're people of character. Charisma will swoop them. They will be excited. But after a while, you want to work for somebody that you trust, somebody that is loyal to you, somebody that puts you first, somebody that pays you on time. Let me tell you, if there's one thing that kills a business, it's when people do not get paid on time. If
Yes.
you fail to pay your people, you have failed yourself.
Yes.
Don't be in business. You're not a businessman. You are an ideas creator. Then go and create ideas for yourself and go and create it for other people. But please don't run a business. So in your analogy that you gave, the creative people, well, it doesn't mean that if you're a creative person and you can do a beautiful design of, let's talk clothing, that you should be in business, because it takes different skills to run a business. And it's far more fetching and reaching in terms of the elements. And I call it the SMART principle. You need to understand all five of those principles, otherwise you cannot run a business. Design is but one aspect of bringing it to the business, and that's part of the marketing and design.
Is it okay to accept that you have failed and you have not done well? I mean, I'm just this example that you mentioned about this business that you helped successfully wind down and wrap up. Um, in some books, we keep reading that sometimes it's good to retract. It's good to step back if you're not able to do something, but then it hits your ego, and it makes you feel that, oh, you know what, maybe I stepped out too soon. Is it okay to get out and say, listen, I can't do it?
Absolutely. We call that E versus E, and that is education versus emotion. Because if you've got a low emotion quotient, it doesn't matter what level of education you have, you will never excel. And if you don't have the emotional quotient to handle pressure, never be in a business that demands being in a pressurized situation all the time. Rather bow gently. And what will prevent you from doing that? Pride. Well, let it go. Rather go and take your gift that you have and go and run and do that properly than try and run a business. Entrepreneurs are people that just shoot from the hip, but they're limited.
Yeah.
It's very seldom that you'll hear of entrepreneurs that made it big. But you see, we only tell about the success stories. But the truth is, a coach knows the difference. You need to know about a lot of people who fail in order that those mistakes are not repeated. And that's why you become more successful. So now I'm turning this on its head. Those people who learn from mistakes are the people who will remain in business the longest, if they're teachable. That's why I said, what will surpass passion? Teachability.
So you mean if the businessmen are teachable, like if they are able to learn, or if they're able to teach their peers and stuff? What do you mean?
Now, what I'm saying is, if they become teachable in terms of what they're doing wrong, in other words,
They
stop
learn.
failing. I mean, if there's a hole in the road, if you walk from A to Z, okay, and every day you come there and there's a hole and you fall into the hole, and the next day you walk and you fall in the hole, it means that you are not fit to run a business, because you need to say to yourself, why did I just not go around the hole? So businessmen find ways to get around the hole. And sometimes it means calling somebody standing on the right to say, please help me because the incline is too high and I need a hand. Please lift me up so I can get around the hole to go forward. And that's what's so important. Are you teachable? Yes
Yeah.
or no?
Are you coachable? Yes. Are you?
Yes.
Yeah. That
Correct.
is great. I agree. Now I'm coming to my favorite part of business, and there my viewers who know me, who have dealt with me, know this is something I'm genuinely, like hands-on mad about. Discipline. Okay. So I like to call myself a disciplined person. Okay. But then I do understand that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that discount the value of discipline for growth. Okay. It is like things are haphazard. I'm going to be waking up in the morning, I'm going to do what I feel like, and in the evening I'm going to chill, and tomorrow I have no plan, and so on. I don't have a routine. So let's talk about this wonderful book that you have written on discipline and the power of discipline. And tell me, what does discipline mean to you, and why is it so important for CEOs and entrepreneurs particularly to be disciplined?
Okay, here's my saying. If you cannot discipline yourself, the world has right to discipline you. Did you get that?
I did.
And I'll say that again for the person, what's he saying? If you cannot discipline yourself, the world has mandate to discipline you. In other words, you're going to learn the hard way. It's going to either cost you money, it might even cost you losing your business. It might even cost you losing a relationship. Therefore, discipline is important. You know, someone once said to me, if you look at a log fire that's sitting there cozy in your living room, in the right setting, I mean, the embers are burning, the flames are there, and it's in the fireplace. Is that enjoyable? Yes, the right setting. Take that same fire, the same embers, same flames, and do that on the middle of your carpet, in the middle of the living room. It is a disaster because it's just the right thing in the wrong setting. That's a big business principle. So is discipline. Let's turn it on its head. How many people have you heard of that actually start going on an eating plan and a diet and they just cannot succeed? They start off with all vigor and passion, but yet 3 weeks later, they just cannot continue. But you see, that's because of the lack of self-discipline. Because it starts with basic things such as routine. I can tell you now, all the business people that I know that are successful get up in the morning and make their own bed. So if an entrepreneur is out there listening to this, they reckon, why must I make my bed? Somebody else can make my bed. Well, it's part of the routine of self-discipline that will set you apart from the rest. That's where it starts. How many people have you heard that start saving for a project, put money away, and they just do not succeed in continuing to do so? That's because of a lack of self-discipline. And therefore, what has happened in this book, I realized it's all about behavior, because the subtitle is self-control through behavior modification. In other words, we need to learn a measure of self-control, and that means change the way we used to behave in order to get the desired result. Now, if you want to start exercising, I can tell you now the number one thing that I will advocate is what I call accountability. If you are not prepared to bring accountability into it and make yourself accountable to someone else, you will not be sustainable, because you'll start off with all vigor and passion, but you will not have the sustainability to go through. That's where mentoring and coaching and teaching and training comes in. Those four different things, by the way, and there's a place for each one of those four, That's not what the program is about today. But a coach and a mentor are two different things. Okay. So now back to the discipline. We all have areas of life we live in. And therefore, the book is written by myself and co-authored by 5 other people, because I myself have decided I'm not the specialist in every one of those areas, but I am the specialist when it comes to behavior modification. I know how to help people to change the way they used to do things and turn around and never do it the wrong way again. That's my skill. So I write on the behavior modification part of it. But then the 5 other areas were physical discipline, social discipline, emotional discipline, financial discipline, and spiritual discipline. All of those are a discipline. So I then partnered with a specialist in each one of those areas in this book to write in their area. I'm not advocating that I'm the master of all. Yes, master of most, quite often. However, with this book, I stuck to behavior modification, and each one of those wrote on their areas. And now, when it comes to your discipline, it first starts with as easy as 5 things. Rate yourself out of 5. In which area do you believe that you are ill-disciplined? Or turn it around. In which one of those 5 areas are you disciplined best? Is it physical, social, emotional, financial, spiritual? Then you have a score. Wherever you score, let's say you score yourself out of 10. Wherever you've scored yourself lower than 5, those become the areas that you need to get on track. However, I want to say to you, when you spend time on thriving, on getting a project right, always start with what are you best at. I mean, if you're a 3 out of 10 and you work hard and you improve to 5 out of 10, you're still average. But if you're a 7 out of 10 and you work and you make that a 9 out of 10, your results will escalate.
Right.
So you need to have a balanced approach in terms of accelerating that which you're good at and picking up where you can improve. But don't kill yourself trying to improve yourself. Take the areas where you're best at. But overall, discipline comes back to this one thing, behavior. And you can be trained. If we can train a horse, I don't know if you ever have been on a horse. If you have the ability to control a horse that is such a powerful beast through discipline, then you should be able to control yourself. So when people come to all kinds of abuses and problems, it's because of a lack of self-discipline. Can they change behavior? Yes, they can. I believe any problem out there can be solved, but it will take focus. It will take support and assistance through somebody that helps coaching you through it with accountability. Then it will change. So I guess you might want to ask me on behavior modification, what makes the difference?
I was going to ask you that. This is my next question. In terms of behavior modification, what makes difference? So, let's take an example. Okay. Say, you have worked with different CEOs, etc., and there are some common behavioral changes, modifications that you may like to recommend, okay, to the CEOs to try and bring in their routines a bit and see a change. What would some of those changes be that you recommend or you advocate?
Okay, let's talk to the CEO. The first thing I would rest is for him to find a balance between work and rest. What? Why would you talk about rest first? Because if you are keeping you running 100% at all times and you don't build in time to rest and play, you'll burn out. And once you burn out, I cannot use you. I cannot accelerate you. Therefore, the balance between working hard and playing hard. That's the first thing. Basic things such as taking accountability for personal fitness, to the way that you eat. That means sleep, eat, and physical. Those 3 things are disciplines that if you don't have them under control, you will never win. You'll actually be like on a sand hill. You keep on spinning and spinning, but you're just not getting to the top. But once you decide to change your behavior and say, right, and sometimes you need help. You need someone that you can phone every day and they say, did you do ABC? And the CEO will say, I've done ABC. Those are the guys who become teachable. You heard me say that earlier on. They don't have a problem with arrogance or pride, that actually win every single time. And they're normally the nicer people anyway. Well, who doesn't want to deal with nice people? Of course, it's a pleasure to do that. So for those CEOs, what I say is, first, start with your balance between work and life in terms of bringing in rest. look at your personal well-being holistically in terms of how much sleep do you get, how much exercise do you get, how do you eat, and then who are you accountable to for all of those? If you have that recipe, you've got a chance.
That is excellent. I love the fact that you emphasize so much on accountability and that it is so important to have people that you're answerable to. I think this is essentially where a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they don't find someone that they are accountable to. It's just like today, if I've got up, I've made 100 dirhams, it's okay. Tomorrow, I don't make, it doesn't matter because I don't have someone to go back to. I think that accountability makes a world of difference.
I read a book when I was 21 years old by Ken Blanchard, The 1 Minute Manager. I still remember the first principle, and that is manage by walking around. So if you want to be successful as a CEO, that principle that I learned more than 42 years ago in business was manage by walking around. That means be everywhere, pop up everywhere. People must never know when to expect you. That's the first principle. Second principle, catch people doing something right. Oh my gosh, we so easily knock people down and slate them and actually break their spirit instead of knowing that it's easier to lift people. People are lifted, will go to the nth degree for you. Catch them doing something right. And then lastly, why is it that we always find time to do things over a second time? Ken Blanchard said, do it right the first time. Rather take a little bit longer, rather plan better, reverse engineer the situation as a CEO, ask yourself what must I gear, ask yourself who must I involve, ask which skills must I deploy, but when I put this into practice, do it right the first time. Funny enough, you always find the time and the money to do it right the second time, but never with the same results.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Doctor. It was such an insightful conversation. I wish I could go on and on and on and have this discussion, but I'm super happy that we touched on so many important things, right from the SMART principle down to understanding that teachability outweighs passion, and then understanding that these essential skills that one needs to develop as an entrepreneur in terms of especially your behavior management and this whole balance that we're supposed to maintain with everything. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being with us on today's show.
May I ask one question?
Please, yes.
You wanted to know the answer about behavior modification in terms of what is the secret sauce. Yeah. You want it or not?
I do.
Let me give it to you. Behavior modification is all in the word discipline. Because if you take the word discipline, D-I-S-C, stop. Because all four of the behaviors are described in the basic human behavior, which people know as red, yellow, green, blue.
Yeah.
Or as driver, influencer, supporter, compliant. Or choleric, phlegmatic, sanguine, and melancholic. Those are the styles. So that's all encapsulated in that first part. DISC. You need to find out how you operate. What makes you tick? What are your strengths? What really drives you? What doesn't drive you? What doesn't fill your tank? Because if you understand who you are, you can actually add value to people. Then the next letter is the I. The I stands for, it's like a little tower that's got the waves around it for communication. You need to find, when it comes to behavior modification, how to communicate truth to your mind in terms of mindset changes. Because if you keep on doing the same thing, you cannot expect a different result. Albert Einstein said that is just craziness, madness to try and expect that. And then the last one would be the key. That part that says P-L-I-N-E. I want to tell you one thing. That key is described in my book, The Disciplined Lifestyle, because that key is what is going to help you do it right every single time. In other words, if you want the key, you're going to have to buy the book. It's called The Disciplined Lifestyle, Self-Control Through Behavior Modification.
Brilliant. And Viewers, this book is available on Amazon. You can go, you can purchase, and do leave us your comments below and tell us what did you think about this book. Yeah, thank you so much once again, Doctor, for being with us. And I look forward to having more such lucrative and brilliant discussions in the future as well with you. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Anytime. It was a pleasure to be here. And all I want to say to all the CEOs out there, remember, if you want to be a CEO, you can do it when you decide to become teachable.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care. Until I see you guys next week, have a very good rest of the week. Take care. See you. Bye.